today we're going to make a pamphlet stitch book for the East Kingdom Ministry of Arts and Sciences try-athlon. And this is the book in question. It's really very simple. You can use it as a notebook, a quick notebook. These, I frequently make these for the guest register, for vigils, actually, for taking the names of the folks who want to go in and see the vigilant, so that the people helping out can keep track. They're also really handy for just a simple notebook. If you need something for court, you can also make them for children to let them color in or doodle in. They don't take a lot of effort, but they are very handy and very convenient. So I'm at my kitchen table, and this is a cutting mat that I have. This one is great. It has a scoring side, which is convenient if I'm making boxes or more complex books, and a cutting side, and it has a grid for measuring, which is also super helpful. The other things that I have today are a ruler and pencil. We'll use those to measure the paper and to mark the holes for sewing. I have an awl for punching the holes through which we will sew the book. But if you don't have one, you can simply take a cork and a sharp pin and embed the pin into the cork and then use this to push. I like this one simply because, well, it was here in the kitchen and it's no longer needed, and this actually is a bit of a help, especially if you need to turn around and give it a push. Sometimes thick bits of paper can do a number on your fingers, and there are in fact thimbles that are made actually for bookbinders that are slightly different than a sewing thimble, although that would work as well. So you can do this if you need to. You will need a needle. This is a blunt. You don't need a sharp because you're already going to have punched your holes. You're also going to want some thread to sew with. This is just DMC floss. There is a kind of bookbinding thread. It's usually linen, sometimes cotton, sometimes it's waxed with beeswax. Don't need that. This is just a try-athlon. This is from whatever you can find around the house. Just whatever you have is great. Some people find it helpful to use clips to hold their pages together as they're sewing so the paper doesn't, slide all over and your holes don't get misaligned. So these might be handy if you have them. And then finally, you'll want scissors. If you want to cut your pages and have a nice crisp edge, obviously not fabric scissors. And you can use an X-Acto knife with a metal-edged ruler to cut your pages. If you have a paper cutter, use the paper cutter. If you want to just tear it and have that nice torn edge, which is also fairly popular these days, you can do that as well. Then finally, for creating a nice crisp fold on your book at the spine, you can use a bone folder. Now, if you don't have one, that's fine. Your everyday butter knife will do just as well. This part can do well for the folding. See, it's a very similar shape. This one's got a little bit of a curve to it. It makes it a bit of a pain, but if you have a nice straight handled one, that's great. This part as well is also good for a good crease, just like this point here. So don't worry if you don't have a bone folder. Just use your butter knife. Okay. So we're going to just use copy paper today. That's it. Nothing special. This is just 8.5 by 11 paper that I stole out of my printer. For this book, we really only need 4 sheets of paper. I'm going to count out 4 sheets, put the rest aside. I'm going to tear it, simply because it's easy. So, I'm going to line up my corners. Don't worry if you don't get them perfect. Get them as perfect as you want. Again, you can use your butter knife. See how that didn't quite score because it's not flat. Don't use the serrated part. Like, don't put this against your paper. I'm just using the edge now. How it would work with the bone folder is like this. I have a nice crease here. Because I'm going to be tearing my pages rather than cutting them. Because, I mean, I could cut them here, but I'm just not good at straight. And I find I do better at straight if I tear it. So I'm going to fold it back the other direction, back on the fold itself. Give it another crease, make it nice and tight and crisp. For now, I'm just going to tear. So I find it best if I put my finger where I'm going to be tearing and just pull from this corner, pull straight out. And then just slowly go down. Ta-da! But I'm just gonna stack my pages up. All my torn bits are here. Okay, and this is where we are. Now, I'm also going to fold it this direction to make my spine. So line up my corners. Okay, there we go. Now I also need a cover sheet. So I have some cardstock. Really only slightly heavier than the paper itself. Use whatever you have. You could use wrapping paper. You could use construction paper. You could use foam paper. You could use, you could cut up a cereal box that you've just finished and use that and then decorate it however you want. Really, the options are endless. I think I'll do this one in pink. So I need to make the cover, so I need to make it the same size. So I'm going to do the same as I did before with the folding and the tearing. So line up the edges. And don't worry if they're not perfect. Now I need to tear it like I did before. Okay. I actually now have two covers. I'll set one aside. Line this up. Okay, now I have my cover. I have my signature. I'm gonna put them together, and then find the middle. Now we need to punch holes so we can actually do our sewing. And what I'm going to do is on the inside, I'm going to measure. So should be 5.5 because it was 8.5 by 11 paper. It's more or less 5.5. So the mark you want to make 3 marks because we only need 3 sewing holes, one in the center and one on either end. So for the ones on either end, I'm going to mark a 1/2 inch in and make a mark in the valley, in the crease of the fold. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And then I'm going to make one in the center. And that would be 2 3/4. Or if you would like it off center, do whatever you want. It's your book. Now, we need to punch the holes. So this is where, if you find that holding it, you're moving your fingers and the pages are coming apart, you may want to put a clip. I'm going to start in the center just because that's my preference. I've made a hole so you can see it's come through. Now I'm going to do this end. I'm going to turn it because I have small hands and it's easier for me. I'm going to make a hole here. Just don't punch yourself, okay? Now we just need to cut our thread and get ready to sew. So I'm going to use this red DMC. And how do I know how much I need? I'm going to measure once. I'm going to measure twice with a little bit of extra for tying. That's it. Because it's that simple a stitch. The pamphlet stitch is. So now you're going to watch me in my old pair of glasses because I was painting earlier and I didn't want to wear my good glasses to paint with. You watch me try and get this needle threaded without my... We're going to start on the outside of the book. Put your needle in. Now don't forget you need to be able to tie, so leave a little bit of a tail here. Okay. Go up to one side of the book and go back in. Pull it till it's tight. Skip the center hole and go all the way down to the other one. Pull it tight. Okay. Go into the center and go back through the center hole. And make sure you don't pierce your thread. That's why it's nice to use blunt needles instead of sharps for this. Pull it out. Now I just take my needle off because it's now going to get in the way. And I want to make sure everything's nice and snug. So I'm giving a little tug there, in towards the middle, and a little tug here. And now you can just tie it off. Just a double knot. And then after the double knot, you can snip it however close or far you want. Sometimes people leave a little bit and fray this. Sometimes they'll put beads. You could also have left this really long, these both really long, enough so that you could go around the book and keep it closed if you want. Maybe for your next one you might want to do that. For this, I'm just gonna clip it here, and I'll show you that fraying technique. We do this inside the spine when we're sewing frequently because it helps lock the thread in place. So I'm just gonna take and basically untwist the threads here. This is actually where it's nice to have a sharp. So now get a little bit fuzzy on either side. Okay. And so that's it. And that's your first pamphlet book. And so, yeah, enjoy it. Now you can decorate it however you want. And take notes. Keep it in your pouch or in your basket. And enjoy. Thank you.